Hello, and welcome to another edition of Chattin' with Jeanine. I'm your host, State Representative Jeanine Naughter. I'm very honored to introduce this week's guest. Ambassador Meron Reuben is the Consul General of Israel to New England. Ambassador Reuben was born in South Africa, but he also lived in London before moving to Israel in 1974. He studied diplomacy and international relations at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem and has served as permanent representative of Israel to the United Nations from 2010 to 2011. His diplomatic career also includes serving as ambassador to Paraguay, Bolivia, and Colombia. In 2020, Reuben was appointed Consul General to New England. Ambassador Reuben, welcome to Merrimack, and thank you so much for being on my show.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
So I was down in the gift shop today before I left the Capitol, and I was looking for something to get you. I was looking at pins because I have the American and Jewish flag. So I looked at pins, and then I turned my head and went, "Oh no, he's got to have the book." So when I was a freshman legislator in 2011, I sponsored a bill to legalize Quaker parrots in New Hampshire, and then freshman rep, and now he's a senator, Senator Kevin Avard. Wrote a children's book about that bill. And we're featured in here as cartoons. So it's just a fun little book. And I saw him on the way out, so he signed it for you. So that's for you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
And I also have with me the map of Israel, of course. And you can also take this home. I got this from the Israel American Coalition for Action. I see them at conferences. So it's interesting, we hear talk about Israel. And if you look at the big map, it's the whole Arab world, and then there's this tiny, tiny little nation of Israel. Of course, it looks big on this map, doesn't it?
Correct. It's a sliver. But what's lovely about this map, that it's a 3D relief map, so that you can see the hills and the desert and the Dead Sea, of course, which is the lowest point on the face of the planet.
That's very interesting. Yes. And at the top, you have the Sea of Galilee.
The Sea of Galilee is also under sea level, but it's the Dead Sea is even lower.
And then we have Syria.
Yes.
Jordan.
Lebanon in the north. Egypt. Saudi Arabia. And the Palestinian territories are dotted around in Judea and Samaria, and which is also known as the West Bank, because it's the west bank of the Jordan River. And the Gaza Strip is over here.
Interesting. Where was Jacob and his 12 sons, 12 tribes of Israel?
Well, it depends where and how, but yes, first and foremost, they lived in the land of Israel, and they were most probably more nomadic than settled in an area. And then, of course, we had the famine that was in Israel, or biblical Israel at the time, and somebody was sold off to Egypt down Joseph. Here in the south, yeah. As we know, and in the end, the brothers went down to Egypt. I mean, it's the biblical stories come alive in Israel.
In 7th grade, I played Issachar in Joseph's coat. So Joseph in his amazing Technicolor dream coat, and I remember all the words. I remember all the names of the brothers and every color on the coat. So
impressive.
So have you ever seen it?
Yes, I have.
With Johnny Osmond?
Many years ago.
Johnny Osmond played Joseph. And I have, my oldest son is named Joseph, and we have one in the New Testament too, but also because of that play, I wanted a Joseph.
Ah, wonderful.
So I had just a few questions for you. What is a Consul General exactly? And I know there's like a ranking system.
Well, a Consul General is like an ambassador, head of an office, but because there is only one ambassador. An ambassadorial post is in the capital. Now, if a country is large, the guest diplomats will, or the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, let's say, of Israel, has decided that because the United States is so large, we will divide the territory between different consulates. because there's one embassy in Washington, and then we have 8 other consulates around the United States.
I didn't know
so, a Consul General is head of a specific region in the United States, and I am Israel's Consul General to New England, which means that we cover the 6 northeastern states, of course, New Hampshire, Vermont, Maine, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts. So that is my jurisdiction, and I can't be officially called ambassador because the capital of the United States is not in New England.
Oh, okay. But I called you ambassador.
You did call me because that is my rank.
Okay.
There are different ranks. You climb, like in the army or wherever.
That was last week's show. We went through the ranks in the army.
You climb the ranks from 3rd secretary, 2nd secretary, 1st secretary, admin. Then you get to minister, and then ambassador. So those are the ranks in most foreign offices.
And what do you do as the Consul General?
Well, I represent the State of Israel to the 6 northeastern states, and we cover the same departments or divisions that an embassy would focus on. So first and foremost is to get to know the political side of the region. So it is being in contact both with the state politicians and the federal politicians of the region, and get to know whether it is municipal leaders, etc. So one has a broader understanding of what goes on in the region. Then, of course, we have the economic focus. For the State of Israel, especially Greater Boston is a very important area, and we have a few hundred Israeli companies that have either set up or have offices in the Greater Boston area, the majority in the Greater Boston area, and of course, it's very important for us. And then, of course, the connections between academia and Israel. New England is very important as a center of learning for the United States. It teaches the future leadership of this country. The great majority, there are some 230 higher institutes of higher learning in New England, so that's also very important. Then, of course, the contacts with our Israeli diaspora who live here in the...
What does that mean?
The Israeli diaspora, the Israeli, the expat Israelis who live and work in New England. We have approximately 35 to 40,000 Israelis who live in New England. And then, of course, the connection with the Jewish communities in New England. There are about 400,000 Jewish Jews who live in New England, the majority in Massachusetts and Connecticut, and smaller communities in New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Maine, and Vermont.
So earlier when I said 7th grade I was in Joseph's Coat, but in 10th grade, I was Fruma Sarah in Fiddler on the Roof. So I also remember all the words to that. So I'm not good at remembering what the name of the little synagogue is. That's in a house. There's one in Manchester.
Yes.
I don't know what you call it now.
Synagogue.
They call it, I think they call it something else. So it's somebody's house. And we had a house guest, so I took him there so he could worship. And they were praying, and I recognized the words that they were saying from Fiddler on the Roof and the Sabbath scene.
Well, excellent. But you also have a word which you would recognize anywhere in the world, which is Amen. It's both in Hebrew and in English. I mean, it is a word that you would recognize if you heard it in prayer. So yes, that is definitely. And there you would also, I presume, even though it's not a word in English, shalom.
That's a greeting.
Which it is a greeting. Actually, in Hebrew, it's 3 words. It can mean hello, it can mean goodbye, and it also means peace.
It's a nice word. Oh.
It is.
You know, when I was growing up, I actually thought I was Jewish because I asked my mother a religious question, and she'd always say, "Well, the Jews teach," and she'd tell me about the guff and all these different things, but I'm not. We're not. But she taught me to have a great respect for. Is it correct to say the Jewish religion, or do you say what is Hebrew? Are they words interchangeable?
Well, it's Judaism or the Jewish religion, or yes, Hebrew is the language that is spoken today in Israel, and of course in ancient times as well.
The Hebrews,
though prior to Hebrew there was Aramaic as well. But yes.
Is everyone in Israel Jewish?
No,
not at all. So Israelis are not all?
Israelis are not all Jewish. Israel is a mix of cultures and of religions. The main religion, it's the only country which has a majority of its citizens are Jewish citizens. Approximately 73% of the population, 72% of the population are Jewish. Another 18% of the population are Muslim. Another 3 to 4% of the population are Christian of different denominations, many denominations of Christians. And then you have a smaller group of about 1.5 to 2% called Druze, D-R-U-Z-E. They are a small religion that left Islam in the 11th century. And live mainly in northern Israel, southern Lebanon, and southwestern Syria. So we're talking about this area of the map in this portion of the Middle East, and those are the main groups that exist in the state of Israel. But they're not only Jewish.
I have a colleague in Michigan who I think he might be a senator. He got to visit Israel, and they with the, I don't know, it's probably this group, the Coalition for Action of Israel American, and they brought him to all the Christian sites to see as well, which I thought was very respectful and kind.
Well, yes, I mean, one gets to feel and see the Bible for real. These are not only names in a book, these are actual sites from Jerusalem through Nazareth, through Tiberias or the Lake of Galilee, the Sea of Galilee, to places like Megiddo in Hebrew, which is Armageddon.
Where's that at?
So
That's
yes,
interesting.
Armageddon is actually over here. It's even written there. It says Megiddo over there. Yes, it's just southeast of Haifa. The main cities of Israel are the largest city is Jerusalem. The largest metropolis in Israel is the area around Tel Aviv. And Israel's third largest city is the port city of Haifa on Mount Carmel.
Wow. Well, having read the Bible all the way through, I know that this is the promised land and it belongs to the Jewish people. So there's no question about it.
Well, we definitely hope so. It took us some 2,000 years of exile to get back to it. But this year is our 75th anniversary of the modern state of Israel, and it has been quite a journey.
You know, I think I may have told you this before, but my father was in Patton's Third Army, and he helped liberate Dachau. He was haunted by it the rest of his life. He never spoke. In fact, after World War II, he joined the Marines, and he never spoke of the Army again. But sometimes we'd get a little bit out of him. It was one day my brother came home and said the Holocaust never happened, because that's what they taught him in school, the Holocaust never happened. My father hit the roof, and he had a deep, scary voice, and he put him in his place and said, "I was there and I saw it, and don't you ever say that again." Well, he said a lot louder and meaner, but I learned about the Holocaust when I was maybe 11. They had different programs on TV. There was a woman who returned to Auschwitz to show her son where she was, and I started watching these documentaries. I remember having many conversations with my sister-in-law. My brother's 16 years older than me, so I was still a kid. I'd go visit with them. and it's never left my mind. It's always been a fear that something like that could happen again. And I read things vicariously. So, and I've read many books. I can't even count them how many books I've read on the topic. So, it did happen.
Yes,
and it happens again.
Of course, it did happen. It can definitely happen again if we don't learn from our mistakes. The Nazi regime in Germany tried to exterminate the Jewish people, and unfortunately were very successful in Europe, killing some 6 million Jews systematically. And this was something that is very difficult. But as you mentioned, Holocaust denial and denial of things that happen are very, very difficult. I mean, General Eisenhower and then President Eisenhower, when he going through the concentration and then the death camps that were especially in Eastern Europe, he actually said that the places not only must be talked about, they must be filmed for posterity, so that people in the future know that things like this happened and would never happen again. And so I think that this is something that is very important, and I think it was interesting that your father stood up for the memory of what had actually happened, because it's not easy. And of course, going through something and even seeing it, not going through the concentration and then the death camps in Europe, was traumatic also for the few survivors who were there, and those survivors also didn't really talk about it. It's only as some of them got older.
Most people don't. When they go through a trauma,
exactly.
It's hard. They don't talk about it.
It's very, very difficult to talk about the trauma. But as people got older, and we still have people who have gone through the Holocaust with us today, whether they be in New Hampshire or in other areas of New England, that are willing to talk about their experiences. And this is something that is incredibly important for a younger generation to hear.
Well, I have 3 sons in the military, and one of them went to Dachau, and he said it was life-changing, just seeing, the after.
It is very life-changing. I also joined a delegation from the Foreign Ministry some 15 years ago, and we went to Auschwitz-Birkenau and other death camps around what is today Poland, and it was something that you don't forget.
They have an exhibit in Boston, the Auschwitz. I don't know if it's in Boston. It's in Massachusetts, though.
Yes.
I'm going with a couple of friends at the end of May.
Yes, there is, and of course there is the memorial in Boston, and in the next few years there is going to be a Holocaust Memorial Museum that will be built in central Boston. There are other Holocaust museums in the United States. There's a very
if I get an opportunity to go to
yes.
DC again, I want to go. That's going to be on my priority list.
But even in the Heritage Museum in Massachusetts, they have just added a cattle truck to the exhibit to explain to those who came. It's not only war machines, whether it is tanks or airplanes or armored vehicles, etc. And they want to explain what war does to civilian population, and they wanted that specifically. So I was there in January, and this is a new exhibit there in the Heritage Museum, which I think is very important for the visitors, and especially for the younger generation to understand.
I don't know if you experienced this, like when I went to when I went to Gettysburg, I could feel the energy of what happened in Gettysburg. I felt that the same way at Ground Zero in D.C. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yeah. Where was that? Washington.
In New York.
New York. I just was thinking
Yes.
of somewhere else. New York. And then at the Patton Museum in the desert in California, they had a Nazi flag, and it just you can just feel the evil. It's like I can't really describe it.
Yes, there are a few places when one travels around the world or wherever one goes, and you actually feel that
The energy
that
of what
energy,
happened.
and it can also be a positive, but also a negative energy.
So October 7th is probably a date that you'll never forget.
It's a date that will be remembered by the people of Israel of all faiths, and for the rest of our lifetimes. I think it was the one of the darkest, if not the darkest, day in the history of modern Israel. With over 900 civilians massacred and 300 soldiers killed, all on that day, at the hands of a very radical Islamic genocidal group, Hamas, which has been unfortunately running the Gaza Strip for the last 16 years.
So I have not seen the pictures or the videos, but I do know one newsman who has. And we were asking him, are you okay? I mean, because that must be awful to see.
It is something that I feel that people have to see, because like you talked about Holocaust denial, the events of the 7th of October were already being denied on the 8th of October by people who felt that they knew better. And this is something that is really problematic to deal with, because these kind of things have to be seen. I have seen the 47 minutes of the different presentations on social media. I mean, the terrorists themselves gleefully showed how they murdered, raped,
using their own phone, using the victim's own phone, and showing the murder.
Exactly, and that was. But it is something that I think people have to see to understand why we are in the situation that we are at this moment. We have made that decision that we are not willing to have a Hamas terrorist regime on the other side of the fence who only wants to redo and what they did on the 7th of October. And so this is one of the reasons why we feel the necessity to get rid of the Hamas regime in the Gaza Strip. And this is, war is not an easy thing to behold or to go through. But this is something that definitely needs to be done and definitely needs to be faced, and we are not willing to go back to the same situation that existed before the 7th of October. We lived for 16 years with a terrorist regime on the other side of the fence, and they embedded themselves in civilian population, and they took over the lives of the civilian population on the other side, and this has to stop.
So besides the denial of what happened, anti-Semitism seems to be on the rise. It's even affected this town, Merrimack, New Hampshire. We have an Israeli-owned company, Elbit. I live over near there. And there were some thugs that they locked the doors. I had pictures. I should have brought them. I've
seen the pictures, and I've followed what goes on. I think it is a major problem. It might be an Israeli company, but it gives jobs to the people of Merrimack and the people of New Hampshire. On my lapel, as you have an Israeli American flag, I do too. And in the more than 3 years that I've been here, I've sort of added to the line, unfortunately, the blue square for anti-Semitism, fighting anti-Semitism. This existed, of course, before the 7th of October, but it exploded on the 7th of October. This blue square is part of the, I don't know if you know, the Kraft family have started using this as a symbol to fight anti-Semitism. And then, of course, the yellow ribbon for the hostages that are still kept by the Hamas terrorists in the Gaza Strip, hoping for their release.
And how many of them are still being held captive?
Well, we have names of 134 people who are still kept captive, but we do not know how many are alive. Unfortunately, we do fear that a very large percentage of those who were captured and taken across from Israel to the Gaza Strip are unfortunately no longer with us. But we want to get back all those alive and unfortunately those who have also perished at the hands of the terrorists.
You know, after the Vietnam War, was it the Korean War? 70 years later, there's old men walked out of the jungle. 70 old men walked out of the jungle. Many, many years after one of the wars. I'm getting everything all mixed up. But that's how I got involved in politics, was the prisoners of war missing in action that were left behind after Vietnam.
Interesting.
And I knew
yes,
families.
I can't see our hostages walking out alone, unfortunately.
Justin, could we add some time to this episode? If it's all right with you, we'll keep talking.
With pleasure.
Okay, because at 30 minutes it goes by so fast. I meant to ask you about the Israeli flag. So it's white with the Star of David in the center, and then
Correct.
there's two horizontal lines, one on the top,
Correct.
one on the bottom. What do those symbolize?
Well, it's actually based on the Jewish prayer shawl, which men usually
they wore them in Fiddler on the Roof.
Yes, and it covers. In the old days, the blue color was made by a shell and a snail, the snail's shell. It was very difficult to do, but it was in part of the prayer shawl. And of course, the Star of David, which was supposedly on the shield of King David, and has been a symbol of the Jewish nation for many years. But at the same time, Theodor Herzl, who founded Zionism, also saw it as a 6-day work week. Which was something very novel at the time.
So the blue square, I've never seen it before, but
Yes.
we have a Israel caucus
Yes.
now at the State House.
Yes.
That was started by your friend, Representative James Spillane.
Yes.
So I'm
of
thinking
course.
that we all need to get those squares. And
Well,
some of
yes,
the members
with
are
pleasure.
Jewish, but not all, and it's both parties.
Now I know the bipartisanship that exists in the state house here in Concord is really very heartwarming, and we are very excited to be in contact with those who have shown solidarity with Israel, especially in the last few months, and it is really something that we are happy to be in contact with. Of course, this the square for fighting anti-Semitism, I think, is something that is very important, and I'll make sure that the pin is sent to yourself, so that you can give it out to the caucus.
Thank you. I know there's a lot of representatives wearing the American and Israeli flag. There's a freshman rep who just this week, he said, I want to get one of those. And I said, oh, I'll see if I have an extra one at home. And then an ad popped up on how you can get one.
Yes.
So I sent him the link and he ordered one. And then Representative Dan McGuire also was giving away just the Star of David.
Yes.
So if I wear the star, make sure I wear the cross too, because I am a Christian, but I have a great respect for Judaism, and I always have since I was a child. So.
Well, it's time then to come to see the roots of Christianity in the Holy Land, and follow in the footsteps of Jesus, whether it be in the Sea of Galilee, in Nazareth, in Bethlehem, and in other areas, and in Jerusalem, of course.
Yeah, well, I go to Bethlehem once a year. Mail my Christmas cards Takes me 2 hours to get there.
Bethlehem is beautiful. I've
Yeah.
been to Bethlehem. They have it actually was a very large center, Jewish center. There still
Yes, I did
there's
hear
still
that.
a lovely community there. I was there about a year and a half ago for the 100th anniversary of the sanctuary. It used to be a place that I was told that people went to because it was north of the line for people who suffered from hay fever and so they used to go in the spring months. They used to head north to Bethlehem, and that's before air conditioners purified the air to a certain extent, and that's why.
And if you continue up the road, just the next exit, there's the world's longest candy counter at Shutters. So
just as well I didn't see that.
Well, see, that's why we have to check now, because we've been disappointed before. My friends and I, we hop in the car, we go mail our Christmas cards, and then the candy store sometimes is closed. So now we have to wait and see what days are they open so we can hit the candy store, and then we go to Polly's pancake parlors. It's a whole routine.
I'll do it next time.
Yeah. And we have a Jewish camp in Merrimack. So it's one of these little back roads, and take it all the way to the end, and there's a camp.
Yes, New England is famed for all the Jewish camps that sprout in the summer months. Whether it is in Connecticut or in Massachusetts or New Hampshire or Vermont, or in Maine, they definitely are all over New England, and it's wonderful to see. I think even our ex-Prime Minister Naftali Bennett was in one of those summer camps in New England, and our president Isaac Herzog also was in summer camps in New England when he was a child. So there's some wonderful memories of this region, which of course is so beautiful. The green, the hills, the vegetation, and of course for Israelis the water. Because the lakes and the rivers that you have here are incredible.
It is a very beautiful state. I'm glad we live here. Do you know the Jewish comedian Eric Golub?
I have heard the name.
He's a family friend, so he's stayed with us a few times. I have all of his books. And he was very grateful that we had the candlelight vigil in front of the State House sometime after October 7th. You were there.
I was there. It was a very emotional vigil, and I thank not only the state representatives who were there, but also the large crowd of people who showed up to show their solidarity with the State of Israel, and that was very, very important for us, and we're very thankful for it.
Yeah, our Speaker of the House, I believe he spoke at that, and I saw the family that has the little synagogue. It's not, they call it something else in Manchester. Yes. So, and they also that was who I took to the service. Was Eric.
Excellent.
Yeah. Well, thank you again for coming to Merrimack. If somebody wants to learn more about anything that has to do with Israel or you, is there a website? Or?
Well, we do have a website for the consulate, but at the same time it is going through a renovation, which we hope that will be up and running in about 2 to 3 months again. So I would wait, but there are plenty of sites, whether it are by private organizations or different Jewish organizations, that will tell the stories and of course explain what goes on in the Jewish world and in the Israeli world, and it really, there's a plethora of them. It's relatively easy to find, and I think that this is something that has been brought forward by what has been happening lately, that the people need more information instead of just getting one-liners on your TikTok or anywhere else on the internet. And I think that this is one of the main and important focuses to do, that people have to really focus and try to learn instead of just giving a one-liner and thinking that they know everything. It's very, very difficult to understand history. I don't think it's an easy subject. Some people think it is. But I think that this is the importance to delve into a subject and to read up as much as you can. I know that reading is no longer in fashion in the younger generation.
I'm a nerd. I have a book on the. I have books with me. Oh, I have this. Before you got here, I'm going to keep talking now. Before you got here, I noticed this newspaper downstairs, so I just picked it up, and there was an article in here about anti-Israel protesters arrested at the Capitol in D.C. So this is from January.
Yes.
And then I was flipping through, and there's pictures of people in here that I know in this magazine. I don't even know where it came from, but I meant to mention that. And I don't know. I mean, I wondered if you would be willing to talk about some of the horrible things that you saw, because we said people should see the pictures to know that this really happened.
Well, first and foremost, only 2 days ago, the United Nations published an in-depth inquiry into the violence against women on the 7th of October. This, I think, is something that was immediately denied by the other side, but unfortunately sexual violence was used as part of the attack on southwestern Israel on the 7th of October. And even though I served as Israel's ambassador to the UN, and I am sometimes a little bit skeptical of the hypocrisy that comes out of the building in New York and in Geneva, I think that this is a document that has to be read so that people understand how sexual abuse was used as an instrument of war. And I think that this is something that is very, very important for the world. And unfortunately, parts of the material, of course, they do not show the actual rapes that were captured on the terrorists' video cams, but you can unfortunately see mutilated bodies and women who have been shot, both in areas that leave no doubt as to what happened during the massacres of the 7th of October. So yes, and unfortunately there is also a beheading in the...
and I didn't see the pictures, but I've heard that they were beheading the babies.
There were people who were beheaded, whether they were soldiers or women or men or children. But it is I think one understands the enormity of what went on when one sees the collection of what went on. I mean, there was the rave party, the Nova party that was going on, 4,000 people dancing about a mile and a half to 2 miles from the fence with Gaza. The terrorists had not planned to attack that specific rave party, but it was in their way, and they used it, and 369 people were massacred at that party. So
I heard the stories from the survivors, and I saw a picture of a rape victim. I didn't even know if she was even alive at that point. They had her in the back of a truck.
Well, unfortunately, most of those who went through rape, and people have said, well, show us the people, most of those who were raped were then close enough to the terrorists to be shot. And killed, of course. So yes, it is rather. It's more than disturbing. It's something that remains with one. It's once seen, you can't really get it out of your head. That is something that is what we tell people who come and are willing to sit down and bear witness to what happened on October the 7th. But we have shown it to quite a few audiences around New England, and we will continuing to show it in coordination with the Israeli consulate, and this is what we're doing. Only next week am I showing it to another audience in Connecticut, and last week there was a very large audience that viewed it in Massachusetts. How long is the? It's 47 minutes.
Well, you said that. I'm sorry. And what is the reaction of the people that see it?
Well, in some ways, it's difficult to gauge, shall I say, because we live in a society where video games are so graphic and so gruesome that sometimes people have difficulty telling the difference between what is real and what is not.
I know what you mean, because after 9/11, and they started showing people, because it was like a movie, watching the implosion.
Jumping from the...
Right, and that's like in a movie too. But when you saw the people with the amount of ash covering their body, you never see something like that in a movie. That's what made it real to me, was seeing the ash on the people.
No, it is true, and this is part of the fact. And so some will come out of it shocked. Those who have seen snippets of this on social media say, well, we've seen some of this footage before, etc. But a lot of people understand the enormity of what went on, because you see it's intense. It's 47 minutes of an intense focus that you really understand what happened and how it evolved. And this is something people come away, I would say, shaken from seeing it. The majority, yes. But we live in a society that sort of unfortunately accepts violence, and lives with it in a way that maybe it shouldn't. But there are so many things going on around the globe at the moment. Need I mention Ukraine and Russia? Need I mention Sudan, what goes on in Yemen, what goes on in Myanmar, what goes on in other countries around the world. And unfortunately, people sort of let it go by and are willing to live with it without really dealing with it. But this is, just need to talk about Syria, our neighbor, where more than 500,000 people were killed in the civil war, which went on for more than a decade, I would say.
And when was that?
In the last 10 years, 12 years.
Yeah, the young men who gave me this, from the Israeli-American Coalition for Action, they were telling, because I was looking at them, and you can tell they look Jewish, and I almost cried because I was thinking of my father and the Holocaust. I'm like, these boys, they would have been killed. They would have been rounded up and killed if they were in the 40s. And they said, well, there has been other things, other murders since then. And And even now.
Correct, but one needs a long memory, and we have a long memory, and we try not to forget. That's something that modern society has a tendency to forget.
Right, those who forget the past are condemned to repeat it.
Condemned to repeat it, correct.
Could you tell me again the name of that document that came out? I think you said it was...
It's a UN document. I will send it to you on violence against women, and so that you have a copy.
All right, and the viewers, if they want to see this too.
Yes, correct.
All right, so now we've been chatting for a long time. Probably have to say goodbye, but thank you again. Thank you so much for coming.
Well, Jeanine, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for having me, and I always enjoy coming up to New Hampshire, and I hope to do it many more times.
And you're welcome back anytime to come
to
Merrimack and chat with me. And
thank you.
So thank you for watching, and shalom.